Welcome, everyone. Thanks for joining us for today's episode of Canal Days. As always, I'm your host, Carrie, along with my co-host, founder of Historical Tours of Greater Holyoke, Robert Como. Our Canal Days series delves into the vast collection of historical sites throughout Massachusetts, with Robert's expertise of the local history as our personal guide. Each episode, we uncover history throughout local communities, highlighting the historic landmarks and uncovering their seminal significance. Today's episode of Canal Days will be introducing and canvassing the Pelham Hill Cemetery of Pelham, Massachusetts. So, describe what Pelham Hill Cemetery looks like.
It's a very unique look to it, and we're going to talk about the look, the stones itself, and what surrounds the big cemetery, and who might be buried here, and what happened to the front portion of it today. The cemetery was made in 1739 when what's called the Scots-Irish, or people from Northern Ireland, came, and they had a religion that was not the same as Congregationalist religion. So they started up their own church here. Now to find this, it's on Amherst Road, which and the corner with Daniel Shays Highway, which is Route 202. So it's easy to find. It's considered by many to be the center of the town. You're going to find a lot of gravestones, which are just field stones put into a position to cover the body, and then no inscription. That's because the people didn't have much money and they couldn't get rocks that were typically used inside of cemeteries, such as brownstones and limestones, up into Pelham, which is a high elevation and far away from the Connecticut River Valley, where a lot of these rocks are found. And so you have a lot of field stones around, but there are some gravestones that are inscribed. And so for that reason, you'll find Robert Abercrombie, the first minister. Here, he was a minister for almost 60 years. You'll also find the minister that replaced him, Richard Crouch Graham. And you'll find a lot of other beautiful stones around, including a double stone, which is wonderful. You'll find some of the earliest burials of Martha Kunkley from 1748, of Margaret Hood from 1758. And you'll even find some gravestones mounted onto the stone wall. So they didn't know where the gravestones belonged after a couple centuries, and someone put them up on a stone wall. There was 3 on the front wall, and maybe there's some more on the sides and back wall too. And so it's a very unique looking cemetery surrounded by some really cool buildings.
And detail the surroundings of the cemetery.
There is the old time meeting house nearby from 1738, I believe. It is well kept and very much respected and used every year. It's the oldest continuous to use meeting house probably in the United States, and at the very least in New England. And also nearby is the Quabbin Reservoir. So if you go across Daniel Shays Highway, you meet within about maybe a mile the Quabbin Reservoir. That was land that used to be Pelham, and they took portions of it away to make the reservoir itself. Also nearby is the Congregational Church, and it is from the 1800s. There's an older residential home towards the back of the cemetery, and a residential home that is about 80 years old to the right side of the cemetery as you face into it. And again, it's at the corner of Amherst Road, which goes deep into Pelham, and on which you find other cemeteries around. So it's a place with a lot going to it. There's also a Daniel Shade Memorial Stone with plaque out towards the front. And there's also a World War II memorial stone. It's honor roll stone, also towards the front grass. Now, within the cemetery, you'll meet a lot of people that were the original settlers, and mostly they were, of course, the Presbyterians. But you're going to find also some others inside of there. There's even some burials that are towards the back, only even less than 100 years old. Only a few though. All right, so it's a lot to it, and you should just walk around and appreciate what you see.
And stick around, and we'll be right back after this quick announcement. Are you fascinated by local history and eager to investigate the obscure treasures off the beaten path throughout the state of Massachusetts? Or maybe just seeking an unforgettable cultural activity for family and friends to enjoy? Look no further than Historical Tours of Greater Holyoke, founded by Robert Camus. With over a decade of experience, Robert offers captivating tours and presentations of historic sites and landmarks throughout the state. Whether you're interested in canals, cemeteries, charming churches, or more, Robert's tours provide a unique and enriching experience for all. And that's not it. You can also schedule private tours tailored to your interests, ensuring a personalized adventure and unforgettable memories. Perfect for families or groups of all sizes, making for an exciting hands-on learning experience that brings history to life. Simply visit holyokecanaltour.org or email bobcat4214 capital B at yahoo.com to book your private tour today. So, getting back to our episode on the Pelham Hill Cemetery, Massachusetts. Reveal who is buried in this cemetery.
Good question. There seems to be no list of people for these fieldstones without inscription. But there is a list from a half century ago, from the 1970s, made by a young person, ordered up by the Pelham Historical Society, which is based inside the church that's near, right on the cemetery's property. And so that is great, because if any stone has worn out in the past half century, there is a list. Also, you can read some of the gravestones. I told you about some of the ministers around, Abercrombie and Graham. And then I told you about some of the very early burials, Hood and Kunkley. And the others seems to be the original pioneer settlers from Northern Ireland and their sons and grandsons and great-grandsons. So mostly this is a Presbyterian cemetery. If there's any other denomination here, sure, there probably are. And you can actually tell by the names, and if you look at Find a Grave or do research of your own, you'll figure out which ones belong to which denomination. So it's a very unique looking cemetery, and there's 4 ledger gravestones in a row, and more than ledger because they also have to them headstones and footstones. So it forms 3 sides of a rectangle around the body. And ledger gravestones are in the earth themselves, lying flat on it. They're not table gravestones are raised, ledger are in the earth, and they're still legible, so you can read these. And 3 are very large, one is a bit smaller. So that's a very interesting group of stones. And also look towards the back, you can start to see more inscribed stones, right? And I told you about other particular things around here. So, great place to start if you're into Pelham's wonderful cemeteries.
And recount, what happened to the front of the cemetery.
When, in 1938, they had to straighten out and enlarge the highway that was going to surround the Quabbin, Route 202 and Route 9. On the west side, Route 202 was put in, called Daniel Shays Highway. They had to make it wider, with a breakdown lane on both sides. And that's because it had to support more traffic going around the Quabbin. When that was done, they had to move the stone wall and the burials that were in the front 20 feet of this cemetery. And so any burials, say, approximately in the first 3 rows of the cemeteries, were moved towards the back of the cemetery. And so there are gravestones, which are mostly just fieldstones, were moved towards the back. And that's why there's a lot of fieldstones in the back. So it goes fieldstones front, then a lot of inscribed stones, and then a bunch of field stones. And that's because it used to be 2/3 field stones towards the front, but that front 1/3 had to be moved out from the front. So remember that as you walk through, and you start to be able to interpret what you see right in front of you.
And thank you for listening to Canal Days and our episode on the Pelham Hill Cemetery, and joining us on our journey through the Connecticut River Valley. We hope you enjoyed uncovering some of the hidden and overlooked marvels and their fascinating stories that shaped our past and the state of Massachusetts. A special thanks to Robert Camus, founder of Historical Tours of Greater Holyoke, for sharing his passion and expertise with us. Remember, you can find more information about Robert's tours, book private tours, and explore the Canal Days video and podcast series at holyokecanaltour.org. And if you enjoyed today's episode, please like, comment, and share. We'd love to hear your thoughts and suggestions for future episodes. Thanks for listening, and don't forget to tune to our next episode of Canal Days. Until next time.